Along that change impacts are things which need to be understood. And there is no one answer for this. There are changes which will affect posterity. There are changes which will be momentary, which will affect only the moment you live in.
Tapan is a disruptor. I think he is going to be an agent of great transformation, and he has been. I mean, he's he's impacted a lot of students' lives. So, no, but jokes aside, I think what Tapan touched upon is actually something that like my studio is now over the past 1 or 2 years started looking at purely for ourselves, not for any project. And it's got to do because a large number of our clients are people who have plots of land in the city and they want to build houses. And invariably one can make out a change in the length of time that houses exist. So if houses were built around 1920, 1930 with what was then considered a reasonably good budget, chances are they would have lasted quite fruitfully till about 1980, 1990. And it's only the only change that was really speaking required was that the value of the land that the house sat on suddenly rose exponentially, and the only value that was left to be able to extract from that house was the real estate value of the land that it stood on. And therefore there was this motivation to break it down and build it again. Houses that were built in the 70s and 80s tend to be in pretty bad shape by about 2000. So there's a reduction, progressive reduction in the longevity of time. Now that materials actually stay up. If I look at the houses that we're constructing today, I don't think anyone is investing any money with the hope that it will last more than 10 years. Because the real estate value that that piece of land would accommodate in 10 years time is a gold mine. So why are you spending making it more permanent? Just have some tile clad on it and some aluminium that can just be ripped off. Preferably aluminium because then you can resell it and make a profit there also. So what's interesting is that we are now transforming into a society that used to attach a lot of identity to land. That is, when my parents came to Delhi, a lot of people, that was a very good way to start a conversation, was to say, where are you from? And I remember as a kid, I'm Tamil speaking, I'm Tamil, my parents are Tamil, but I don't consider myself Tamil, I consider myself from Delhi. So when someone asks me, where are you from? And I say Delhi, they say, no, where are you really from? So the point is that I don't have my sense of identity attached to a piece of land. It's attached to this kind of space that I call a city. I don't even necessarily have to own land in Delhi to feel that I belong to Delhi. So now this is a transformation I think that has got to do with this longevity of how long things stand. I don't think I'm so interested in what house will mean as a legacy or as an inheritance to my children. I think more and more people around me, my clients, consider their houses as a financial legacy, as an inheritance that will literally be money to hand over to the next generation. So those old houses of the ancestral houses are disappearing very, very rapidly. It's disappearing, and I don't know whether that is such a bad thing, because I think a lot of our sense of identity being linked to land, and land now meaning money, has led to a lot of degradation of what we are and how we think as a society. Even our own sense of community is impacted by whether we own land or not. Domicile. I couldn't apply for a architecture course in Chennai because I'm not domiciled there. A large part of India misses out on studying at CEP, which I think is an exceptional college because they're not domiciled in Gujarat. Then there are problems of political questions of son of soil and are you from here, who the hell are you to come and work here, go back to your state. So I feel that this identifying yourself and where you're from, and in an urban context, I think, has to be in the current. It cannot rely too heavily on land and the transmission of land. And so to that extent, we are kind of looking at this very closely right now. Again, there are no conclusions drawn, but what I find very interesting is we are now building buildings that can actually be demolished faster and faster. We're spending more and more money, more and more technology, making buildings that have more energy, materials that have more energy input. That is to get, I don't know, a ceramic tile to you in your house. It was, all sorts of global economic movements, ships traveling from China, ceramics, vitrified technology coming from Europe. Some joker sitting somewhere in Karol Bagh is going to market that thing to you, pretending that it's actually from Spain. All this is happening, but the fact of the matter is when I get the lot, 20% of it is broken because it's moved around so much, and they are extremely fragile materials. You're not building with blocks of stone anymore. And my understanding is it's just that now identity plays no role. Yet, when we live in a city, you're like, oh, when you talk to your friends from Bombay, they say, oh, Delhi has no character. Or you'll have people who are like from Delhi who've gone to Bombay, like, oh, Bombay is not. So there is obviously an urge amongst us to have a sense of belonging attached to where we have come or where we live our lives and where we see our future. And I think this idea of permanence, to your question, should be built for today or tomorrow. I tend to agree with Tapan in the sense that I think considering the kind of crisis we have to deal with today, it's much more important to focus on what the immediate impact of what you're doing is. But having said that, you do need a much more macro view, not just 10 years, 15 years, 20 years master plan, but literally be able to try and see that if I am doing what I'm doing right now, why am I doing it? Am I doing it to solve a problem? Am I doing it because I see an opportunity to make a quick buck? Or do I see it as an opportunity to improve my life? Do I see it as an opportunity to improve society's life? What is the nature of motivation behind your building project? Are you working for a developer who just wants to make a lot of money? Then be clear about it. Don't confuse the issue. Right? If you are part of a planning body and if you've been mandated to think about the future, then do it with that honesty. Don't let your private practice and if I make this a commercial place, there will be a building, maybe I'll get to design the building. If you start thinking like that, then you are basically lying to yourself. So as long as you're honest about what motivates you, I don't think there's a problem building for immediately right now.
Have much to add to it, but to take back your original question, the first example that came into my head when you asked about today and tomorrow, most of us may have been in an aircraft. So in an airplane, they always announce if there's going to be an accident, first put on your own safety devices, then your child's, right? And I always think about it because the gut reaction is to enable the safety of your child or your offspring, right? But the reason they say this is because their safety depends on your survival. If you do not survive today, their safety tomorrow is a moot point almost, right? So perhaps, like Madhav says very rightly, we need to change the question. The question must have a larger perspective. So when we begin to say define survival, we are not defining survival of the moment only, but survival maybe of the human species as well. And once we begin to be sensitive, and it goes back to the previous discussion which we were having when we were saying transformation is about awareness, a self-consciousness, right? That what you're doing is for a reason. And it ties up back with that if you're aware of what you're doing today, that today's survival is actually going to determine tomorrow.
Okay, so we're looking out for some more questions. Maybe a couple. Okay.
So my question is to Mr. Chakravorty.
Please introduce yourself, your college, and then the question.
I'm Siddhartha Barua. I'm from KR Mangalam College of School of Planning Architecture. So my question is, like you said, you don't agree with the 10 to 15-year-old plans, the master plans that come in. So, if you look at a recent past, I mean not a recent past, like a post-independence era, it was Jawaharlal Nehru's vision of Chandigarh that led to it becoming a very post-independence modern city, and that. So it was all again everything started with a vision, and everything started with a plan, which was laid out, and now it has become a model for many modern cities. So my question will eventually come up. So the latest case then came Rajiv Gandhi, and what he did was he broke all the financial trade guilds. He brought in basically export all the companies from outside the world, away from the subcontinent. So he made it basically he made the he made the business grow. Basically, he wanted companies to come to India to teach India their techniques and all. So it was again from a vision, it was again from a plan. So now that I get your point that what you're trying to say is these 10, 15-year-old plans are not working anymore, they are outdated or something. But isn't it our job to actually come out with ideas? Say we are seeing from 100 years, from like 2020, 2030, that we're going to have built 100 mega cities, 100 super cities, whatever that term is. So don't you think that we have to follow a master plan to have a direction which eventually might come close to the vision that actually is being taken about those 100 cities?
Sorry to interrupt, I'm Sahil Sharma, Architect Sahil Sharma, and I just passed out from APJ College of Architecture. I would like to add up in his question. Sir, you said we should be responsive. We should consolidate whatever is coming to us. Then only we can accommodate the future. But if we only consolidate, where are the new ideas? See, if we don't plan, we don't create something new. So planning is very important aspect. Coming to master plan, it's just like a direction given to us that we can be visionary accommodating the master plan. Master plan doesn't tell us that these kinds of building needs to be made. It doesn't tell us the plan. What it tells us, one of the things what it tells us is the width of the road that needs to be there between two buildings. Right. So if we have this direction, then automatically the planning is done in this way. It is visionary, and in the future we will become more responsive. We can accommodate the changes, and we can plan too, and we can create something new with this. That is what my point is.
Thank you very much. I think that you, this generation, younger, you're absolutely right. That's the way to think. There is a छोटी सी शेर याद आती है, एक बहुत सिंपल था कि दुनिया है अजब सराय फानी देखी, हर चीज़ यहाँ की आनी जानी देखी, जो आके न जाए वो बुढ़ापा देखा, जो जाके ना आए वो जवानी देखी. Right. So you are young. You have the future right in front of you for miles. You are desperate to understand it. One completely different. I'm no more young. I've not much to look forward to. So I'm standing there and saying, "Piche dekho." You're right. But my issue is the two words, one you said and one the other gentleman there. Somebody asked me, don't we have to have a master plan? I don't know whoever told me why do you have to have a master plan. I mean, who said I have to have a master plan? Who told you have to have a master plan? And God, if you don't have a master plan, you're sunk. We have created this notion that we have to have this, we have to have that, we have to do those things. And now they're standing there and saying questions that you mean to say we don't have to have a master plan. I know things are not working out as per the master plan, but don't you think we have to have? We don't have to have. Just can you think about this time when there is no master plan? क्या हो जाएगा? बॉस क्या हो जाएगा? अगर तुम्हें नहीं पता कि अगले साल 2015 जनवरी में क्या होने वाला है, क्या हो जाएगा? कश्मीर में बाढ़ आ गई, उससे 2 दिन पहले लोगों को पता नहीं था क्या हुआ. जो होना है वही होगा. But I am not standing there and saying that. Second point, and the students. Second point is the word called creativity. Dangerous. Dangerous. You want to be the creator? Oh my God. And sorry, all of you have been told we are in the creative industry, creative field. We are very creative. Who does creativity? Creator. Who does driving? Driver. You want to be the creator? Or not? Sorry, well, I don't want to be the creator. As Raman would say, I will be very apologetic that I am an academic-minded person. I apologize for that. But yes, the point is very clear. This is the problem. I use the word power. Yeah, what's the power in that whole word called creative? I can create. That's why I need creativity. I'm very worried about that word. I think these are the things which are happening in the last 200 years in our country, post that beginning of the industrial era where everybody starts saying, you can, you should, change that. No, you are becoming God. You're trying to play God. Now we don't want to use that word God because some religious guy will come and say blasphemy, shouldn't. Right? So we don't want to, we are using all kinds of other words. Creator, manager, planner. What do you plan, man? I'm going to plan the future for you. Oh, come on. चित्रगुप्त से जाके पूछ लो. उसने प्लान करके रख दिया है. तुम उसको बदलने जा रहे हो. Oh, great. High class. Good.
Okay, so any more questions? Yeah, there is one question. I think we can only take one question more, the chaos, and after that we will break. Is that okay? How many questions? How many serious burning questions? 2? I think we can only have 2 questions and that's it.
I actually want to ask that a guy had asked that we have to build the homes for our present or future. I would like to ask, not considering our private houses and all, if we are building any public services like bridges and all. So if we make something that will satisfy the need for the present, then it would not last for long. And then if we make a bridge that could accommodate like 500 cars nowadays, so the number is increasing day by day. So how will it last for next 10 years or 5 to 10 years basically?
Actually, I think that's a very fundamental question, especially since you chose the example of cars and bridges. I don't think there's been a bridge invented by man that has not eventually been under capacity. That is, if you make bridges and allow people to fly over, then it's so much fun to do that more and more people want to do that, and eventually it clogs the road.
So, but then we have to think of a future.
It's like when I went and bought my first car, it was so awesome that I just stopped using public transport after that, completely. But when you guys showed up to my studio, I had assumed that you would largely be using public transport. But then I realized that my generation had perhaps set a trend of, yaar, gaadi nahi li, tune gaadi le. Anyway, but the point that I wanted to make was that there is no denying that by law and by practice, as creators and architects and designers, you do have a huge responsibility, and it's a burden. It's very nice to say that, kal ke baare mein mat socho. I actually live my life like that. But the fact of the matter is, by law or by how you will end up building, you are responsible to your client. You can't make arbitrary decisions. There are lots of complicated reasons why you need to be responsible. But having said that, I think that very often, I'll give you a couple of examples that I think are entertaining and are important to look at. You talked about cars, right? Slowly, when you start focusing on a problem, when you say, oh, this is a problem, I have to solve it. That's my future. My future is I'm going to be a problem solver, okay? That problem will keep expanding and keep changing because it's transforming, because everything around it is transforming. If you say, okay, it's like trying to, I don't know if you've seen this Japanese game where there are these little squirrels that come out of holes and you're supposed to hit them with a hammer and they keep becoming faster and faster and faster. Each time you hit the squirrel here, it shows up there, and that's the nature of urban city level architectural problems. It keeps changing. So if you set out saying that I'm gonna nail this, you will always fail. What happens with things like roads and cars and so on and so forth is over a period of time, people forget that we're not trying to move cars, we're not trying to move,